Have you ever wondered what it would be like to travel through time, not just in thought, not in memory, not in dreams, but to actually move through the fabric of time, slipping between centuries like pages in a book? Let me tell you a story, but more than that, let me tell you what happened when time travel became possible. It started with a man named Elias Crow, not a scientist, not a genius, just a man. Lonely, forgotten. A librarian, actually. Someone who spent his life organizing time-bound records of others' lives while quietly watching his own slip by. His obsession began with old newspapers. He didn't just read history, he felt it. He ached for it. The past seemed purer, simpler, or at least more understandable. And the future? That was a mystery that both frightened and enticed him. One night, in the quiet basement of his dusty library, Elias found a strange box hidden behind a false wall. Old, mechanical, covered in strange carvings. Not like any machine he'd seen, not modern. No buttons, no wires, but it hummed with a presence. It called to him. He didn't know it then, but it was a temporal gate, an artifact lost to myth, said to be older than humanity itself, not built by humans, but left behind, a relic from something before us. When Elias placed his hand on it, the machine responded. It opened, not with a flash or a bang or even a whir, but with silence. A corridor unfolded before him, dark, endless. It was not made of walls or floors, but of moments, moments suspended in the void, hanging like lanterns, each one a doorway. He stepped inside. At first he was careful. 1 hour back, then a day, then a week. He watched himself walk to work, eat lunch, return home. He saw forgotten conversations, missed smiles, the glance of a girl on the train. He began to fix things. A dropped wallet, a missed bus, a friend he hadn't spoken to in years. It was intoxicating, the power of knowing what would happen and changing it. But then he went further, back to 1998, the year his mother died. He saved her. Back to 1972, the year his father left. He convinced him to stay. He was no longer Elias Crow, the librarian. He was Elias Crow, the architect of his life. But the universe does not like being rewritten. The first cracks were small. A coworker who no longer recognized him. A street that turned left when it used to turn right. A childhood photo where his sister no longer smiled. Elias ignored them. He believed, hoped, that time was a puzzle that could be rearranged as long as you didn't force the pieces. He was wrong. The past is not a playground. It is a living organism. It remembers. And when it is wounded, it heals, but not always cleanly. Soon, things unraveled. A day vanished. Not an event. A day, simply gone. Tuesday never happened. Birds flew backward. Rain fell upward. And the people, oh, the people, they began to change. At first, they just seemed confused, then unsettled. They stared too long, blinked too slowly, spoke in echoes. Some began to glitch, stuttering like a skipping record. Others faded entirely, not just gone, but unwritten. Elias tried to fix it. He jumped forward, backward, rewrote entire weeks, erased arguments, revived lost lovers, but every change bred consequences. He wasn't the only one time remembered. The more he changed, the more it changed him. He aged strangely. On some days he'd wake up older than he was, other days younger. Once he awoke as a child in his adult bed, sobbing from a dream of a life he hadn't lived yet. Time was collapsing, not all at once, but piece by piece, like a sweater unraveling, each tug of thread pulling more of the structure loose. The temporal gate, once solid and humming, now flickered like a candle in the wind. And then, the corridor began to rot. Moments turned dark. Memories he didn't live began to appear. Wars he never read about. faces he never knew, screaming his name. Time, you see, is not a line. It is a web, a living, breathing, tangled web. To travel through it is not to walk on a road, it is to pull at strings connected to everything. One choice leads to another. One act of kindness saves a life, which one day ends another. One saved child grows into a man who starts a war. One avoided breakup leads to a loveless marriage that ends in tragedy. The beauty and cruelty of time is that it means well, but it doesn't play favorites. And then Elias found her, a woman named June. He had seen her once, in 2004, a brief conversation at a bookstore. They shared a smile. She laughed at a joke he didn't remember. He had forgotten her, until he began seeing her in every time frame. In 1912, in 1967, in 2039, always the same woman, always watching. She wasn't a traveler, she was something else, a warden, and she spoke only once. You cannot hold time. You are meant to feel it, not own it. Then she was gone, and Elias realized. He was no longer traveling through time, he was lost inside it. The gate was gone, the corridor collapsed. There was no home to return to, for he had rewritten it so many times, it no longer had a stable shape. So he wandered. He watched the same day play in reverse. He watched an empire rise from dust and collapse within an hour. He saw his own birth and death merge into the same moment. He wasn't aging anymore, or maybe he was, infinitely. He was not a man anymore. He was a ghost in the web. And then, silence. An eternity of nothing. No people, no moments, just time. Watching him. Punishing? Maybe. Forgiving? Maybe not. But one day, or perhaps one non-day, Elias heard a voice, his own, from a memory, from a time he never should have touched, and with that, a final door opened. Elias returned, not to his time, but to one version of it, one thread in the tangled web. He was back in the library, dusty, silent. The box was gone. No one remembered him. He had never changed anything, or perhaps he had changed everything, and the web had repaired itself. He sat down, older, wiser, quieter, and he wrote, page after page, every moment he had seen, every lesson time had taught him. He filled books, not as a warning, not as a record, but as an offering to time. They say a man walks the library now, alone, not old, not young. He watches the hours tick by, but never checks a clock. He touches books like they're made of glass, and sometimes, when no one is around, he whispers to the past, "I remember," and the past whispers back, "So do I." So if you ask me what would happen if time travel were possible, I'll tell you this. You may touch time, but it will touch you back. It may offer you power, insight, control, but in the end, it is not something to bend or break. It is something to respect, to live within, because time is not your enemy. It is your witness, and it never forgets.